The rain had been falling for 3 days straight when I finally dragged the extension ladder out of the garage. My knees popped as I positioned it under the attic hatch. 41 years of laying linoleum will do that to a man. 23 years of kneeling on concrete, pressing tiles into place for strangers while my own foundation cracked beneath me. But I didn't know that yet. Not really. Dad! Dad! Wait for me! Theo came barreling down the hallway, flashlight clutched in his fist like some kind of treasure. 10 years old and convinced every shadow held a mystery worth solving. Slow down, bud. Ladder's not going anywhere. Mom says it's raccoons, he said, breathless. But I heard it last night. It wasn't scratching. It was like whispering. I ruffled his hair. Raccoons don't whisper. That's what I told her. Mara appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, that familiar half-smile playing on her lips. Even after 12 years of marriage, she could still stop me mid-thought. Dark hair pulled back, flour dusted on her apron from the bread she'd been kneading. You're really going up there? It's probably just the old insulation settling. Been putting it off for months. Theo and I are going to map it out. Right, buddy? Ghost hunt. Theo pumped his fist. Mara laughed. Just don't bring down any actual ghosts. I've got a shop to run tomorrow. Her florist shop. Petals and stems. 3 years running now. Her dream, she'd called it. I'd taken extra jobs in Albany to help fund the startup, driving an hour each way while she built something beautiful. I was proud of her. God help me, I was so proud. I went up the ladder first, testing the rungs, then reached down to haul Theo up beside me. The attic smelled like dust and old wood, that particular mustiness of a house built in the 1890s. We'd bought this Victorian as newlyweds, seduced by the real estate agent's promise of endless potential. 15 years later, we'd fixed maybe a quarter of what needed fixing. Theo swept his flashlight across the space. Trunks of old clothes, Mara's college sketchbooks, edges yellowed like dried petals. A box of my father's tools I couldn't bring myself to sort through. Over here, Dad. The floor's weird. I followed the beam to a spot near the eaves where a floorboard had warped, lifting slightly from its neighbors. Theo was right. Something had disturbed it recently. Fresh scratches in the dust. Stand back, bud. I worked my fingers under the edge and pulled. The board came up with a groan, and something tumbled out, clattering against the exposed joists. A phone. Not our kind of phone. A cheap burner, the kind you buy at gas stations with prepaid minutes. The screen was spiderwebbed with cracks, battery corroded at the edges. But when I tilted it toward Theo's flashlight, the wallpaper image made my chest seize. Mara. Younger, maybe 29. Radiant in that way she'd been before the shop stress and the sleepless nights. Her head was tilted against a man's shoulder, her smile wide and unguarded. The kind of smile I hadn't seen in years. The man wasn't me. He had a thick beard, darker than mine, no gray. Strong jaw, eyes crinkled with laughter. The timestamp read, "Delivery run, last week." What is it, Dad? Is it treasure? My mouth had gone dry. Old phone, bud. Probably from the people who lived here before. Can I see? Nothing interesting. Come on, let's check the other corners. I slid it into my pocket before he could argue. My heart was slamming against my ribs like a mallet dropped on tile. Had to be a mistake. Old phone, previous owners. Except this wasn't the previous owner's attic. We'd cleaned it out ourselves when we moved in. And that was Mara's face. That was her college ring on her finger, the one she still wore on her right hand. We spent another 20 minutes up there, Theo chattering about imaginary spirits while I made appropriate noises. Found a family of dead mice near the insulation. No ghosts, no raccoons. Just a phone that shouldn't exist. That night, over meatloaf and mashed potatoes, I tested the waters. Attic's pretty quiet now. Think I fixed whatever was making that noise. Mara didn't look up from cutting Theo's meat. Probably just the wood settling. These old houses, you know. Dad found a magic phone, Theo announced through a mouthful of potatoes. I felt my jaw tighten. Old toy, bud. Nothing magic about it. It had a picture on it. Eat your vegetables. Sharper than I intended. Theo's face crumpled slightly and guilt twisted in my gut. Sorry, buddy. Just tired. Long day. Mara glanced at me, something flickering behind her eyes. Concern? Fear? I couldn't tell anymore. You okay? You seem tense. Fine, just thinking about the Henderson job tomorrow. They want the whole kitchen done by Friday. She nodded, returning to her plate. Vic's been running me ragged too. His delivery routes are completely chaotic. I never know when supplies are coming in. Victor Reyes, her wholesale supplier. 40 years old, built like he'd spent his 20s hauling produce, with a laugh that filled whatever room he was in. I'd met him at a few of our summer barbecues. Nice enough guy. Great with Theo. Always let him honk the horn on his delivery van. Maybe you should invite him over sometime. Theo loves his van stories. Something shifted in her posture. Almost imperceptible, but I'd spent 20 years reading people's foundations. You learn to spot the cracks. He's a busy man, she said. Always on the road. After dinner, I helped Theo with his bath, read him 2 chapters of his current obsession, some detective series about a kid solving neighborhood mysteries, and kissed him goodnight. Dad, is the magic phone really just a toy? I smoothed the blanket over his chest. Yeah, bud. Nothing special. Okay. He yawned, eyes already drooping. I'm gonna dream about finding real treasure. You do that. I waited until his breathing slowed, then slipped down to the garage with the phone tucked in my jacket. The battery was corroded, but an old charging cable and some careful scraping brought it back to life. The screen flickered, died, flickered again, then lit up with a cascade of notifications, texts, dozens of them. I scrolled with trembling fingers. Attic's our greenhouse. Theo at Scouts till 7? Miss you. When can I taste you again? Delivery successful. You're incredible. The contact was listed simply as V. I clicked into the photo album. Mara in a motel room I didn't recognize. The sign visible through the window said, Riverside Inn, Poughkeepsie. She was wearing the silk robe I'd bought her for our 10th anniversary, the one she said she'd lost. The timestamp, March 2023, 8 months ago. I did the math. March. I'd been working double shifts on a flooded apartment complex in Albany. Coming home exhausted, too tired for anything but a kiss on her forehead and collapse into bed. She'd been so understanding. Rest, baby. The shop's wearing me out too. We're both running on empty. I scrolled further. Voicemails. Vic's voice, gravel, and honey. Your petals bloom for me, Mar. Nobody else gets to see you like this. Deep cuts tonight? I didn't know what deep cuts meant. I didn't want to know. I sat in my truck in the dark garage for an hour, phone clutched in my hands trying to reconstruct my marriage, looking for signs I'd missed. The late nights at the shop, the supplier mixers I'd skipped because of work conflicts, the way she'd started buying new lingerie. Just trying to feel good about myself, that's all. I'd believed every word, trusted her completely, brought her coffee in bed on Sunday mornings and rubbed her shoulders when the shop stress got heavy, covered her shifts when she needed breaks, told Theo how lucky we were to have such a hard-working mom. I pulled up the calendar app on the burner, appointments marked with a little flower emoji. V Greenhouse, 3 p.m. That was tomorrow, during Theo's art class. At 2:45 the next day, I parked my truck 2 blocks from the floral warehouse on Route 28. The rain had finally stopped, leaving the world gray and dripping. I shouldn't be here. I had a job to finish, subflooring that needed prep work before the Henderson deadline. but my hands had steered the wheel before my brain could object. Mara's car pulled into the warehouse lot at 2:58. Vic's van was already there, white panels, Reyes Wholesale Botanicals, stenciled on the side in green script. I'd seen that van in our driveway 100 times. Theo running out to greet it, Mara laughing at something Vic said while I waved from the porch. She got out of her car and walked toward the van. Not hurrying, but not casual either. The walk of someone who knew exactly where she was going. Vic emerged from the driver's side. They stood 3 feet apart, talking. Then 2 feet. Then his hand was on her hip, and she was leaning into him, and he was brushing hair from her face with a tenderness that made my stomach lurch. They disappeared into the warehouse together. I sat in my truck for 45 minutes, hands on the wheel, knuckles white. When they emerged, Mara's blouse was untucked. She was laughing at something he said, that wide, unguarded laugh I'd seen in the phone photo. The laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in years. Vic kissed her forehead, right there, in broad daylight, in a public parking lot, and she cupped his face with both hands before walking back to her car. I drove home in silence. Picked up Theo from art class, made small talk with the other parents. Smiled when he showed me his painting of a flower garden. "Mom's gonna love this," he said. "Yeah, bud, she will." I didn't sleep that night. Lay there in the dark next to her, listening to her breathing, trying to reconcile the woman beside me with the woman in that parking lot. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his hand on her hip, her face tilting toward his. At 3 a.m., I got up and made coffee, sat at the kitchen table with the burner phone, scrolling through 8 months of betrayal. The texts painted a picture I couldn't unsee. They had pet names for each other. My wild rose. Your thunder. She sent him photos I'd thought were for me. That red dress from our anniversary dinner. She'd texted it to him first with, "Tonight, if you can get away." But what gutted me most were the ordinary messages. Not the heated ones, but the mundane. Theo made honor roll. Wish you could have been there to celebrate. Working late again. House feels empty. Can't wait to see you. You make everything bearable. She'd been building a whole other life. A parallel relationship where she was understood, where she was seen, where she wasn't just someone's mother or someone's wife. And I'd been too busy laying other people's floors to notice mine was rotting. I looked up Nora Hale. She'd been recommended by a guy I worked with, Jimmy Esposito, who'd gone through his own divorce 2 years back. Not flashy, Jimmy had said. Not the type to go through your dirty laundry looking for extra charges. Just gets the facts and gets out. Nora answered on the 3rd ring. Mid-50s from the sound of her voice, no nonsense. "Mr. Kane, Jimmy mentioned you might call." My voice cracked. I cleared my throat. "I need documentation for a divorce filing. I need to know everything." "Tell me what you know so far." I told her about the phone, the texts, the photos, the warehouse. "How long do you think this has been going on?" "The timestamps go back at least 8 months. Could be longer." "And you have the phone in your possession?" "Yes." "Good. New York's an equitable distribution state, Mr. Kane. The affair itself won't directly impact asset division, but if there's evidence of dissipation, money spent on the affair rather than the marriage, that's a different story." "What do you mean?" "Hotels, gifts, travel. If your wife's been funneling marital funds into this relationship, that's recoverable. And it doesn't hurt your custody position either." Custody. The word hit me like a fist to the sternum. Theo. Sweet, bright, innocent Theo, who still believed in magic phones and treasure maps. "My son can't know about this. Not yet." "Of course. I work discreetly. 110 an hour, expenses extra. I'll need a retainer of 500 to start." Done. "Mr. Kane, one more thing. Whatever you're feeling right now, and I know it's a lot, don't confront her. Not yet. Let me build the file first. The more we know, the stronger your position. I can wait. Good man. I wasn't sure about that anymore, but I could learn. Day 3. I installed a GPS tracker on her car. Legal gray area, but it was a marital asset and I needed to know. The device cost $40 at a trucking supply store, magnetic back, battery lasted a month. I slid it under her wheel well at 2 a.m. while she slept. The first ping came at 11:47 a.m. the next day. Her car at the shop, just like she'd said. Second ping at 1:15 p.m., still at the shop. Third ping at 3:22 p.m., a residential address in Poughkeepsie. A quick search showed it was registered to Victor Reyes. His house. She was at his house while I was grouting tile in Albany, and Theo was at after-school care. I pulled up Google Street View. A tidy colonial with green shutters, rose bushes along the front walk. There was a kid's bicycle on the porch. I'd forgotten Vic had a daughter from his first marriage. Weekend custody, he'd mentioned at one of our barbecues. The daughter was probably at school. The house was empty except for 2 people who had no business being there. I drove home that night and cooked dinner like nothing was wrong, helped Theo with his math homework, watched a movie with Mara curled against my side, her hand on my chest, probably still warm from touching him. "You okay?" she asked. "You're quiet tonight." "Just tired, long day." "Poor baby." She kissed my cheek. "I'll make it up to you this weekend. Maybe we can get a sitter, go somewhere nice?" "Sounds great." That night while she showered, I checked the burner phone again. A new text from V. "Today was incredible. Can't stop thinking about you. Same time Thursday?" Her reply. "Can't wait. You're everything." Thursday, 2 days away. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in performance. I kissed Mara goodbye each morning like nothing had changed, complimented her cooking, asked about her day at the shop, held her at night while she fell asleep, her breathing soft against my chest, and stared at the ceiling wondering who she was dreaming about. Nora worked fast. By day 5, she'd mapped Vic's delivery routes against Mara's shop emergencies. The overlap was almost perfect. Every time Mara had called to say she'd be late, Vic's van had been parked within a mile of whatever excuse she'd given. "The motel in Poughkeepsie," Nora said during our second phone call. "She's been there at least 6 times in the past year. Always pays cash, but the front desk remembers her. Said she tips well. With my money. That's the dissipation angle. I'm pulling her shop's financials now. There are some irregularities in the wholesale invoices that might be worth looking at." "What kind of irregularities?" "Vic's company charges her about 30% more than market rate for the same products. She signs off on the invoices without question. Either she's terrible at business, or she knows exactly what's happening and doesn't care. Because he's giving her something else in return." That's my read. I thought about all the times she'd complained about tight margins at the shop, the nights she'd come home stressed about cash flow, and I'd offered to pick up extra shifts. I'd worked weekends for 3 months straight last spring to cover what she called a slow season. How much are we talking about? Conservatively, $4,000 over the past year? Could be more. I'm still digging. $4,000. Money I'd earned with my hands, my knees, my back. Money that should have gone to Theo's college fund or the repairs this house desperately needed. Instead, it had bankrolled hotel rooms and deep cuts, whatever the hell that meant. "Keep digging," I said. "Will do." And Elias. One more thing, I ran Vic's background. He's been married twice before. Both ended badly. His first wife mentioned him in a custody dispute, said he had a pattern of pursuing married women, then disappearing when things got complicated. So he's done this before. At least twice that I can document. His second wife's divorce filing mentions multiple instances of infidelity with clients. Sound familiar? Mara wasn't special to him. She was just the latest target. A lonely wife with a busy husband and a thriving business he could skim from. Romance and profit rolled into one. I wondered if she knew. If she'd figured out that her great love affair was just another con. Probably not. People believe what they want to believe. I certainly had. Meanwhile, Theo kept dropping breadcrumbs he didn't even know he was leaving. Mom's flower friend came by yesterday, he told me over breakfast. The one with the van. Oh yeah? What did you guys talk about? He gave me a new bottle cap for my collection. From Mexico. Said he got it on a special trip. That was nice of him. Mom said not to tell you about the visit. Said it was a surprise bouquet for your anniversary. Our anniversary wasn't for another 4 months. What else does Mom say to keep secret? Theo shrugged, spooning cereal into his mouth. Just stuff about the shop. Boring stuff. I made a mental note for Nora, using my kid as a cover, using my kid to keep secrets. If I'd needed any more confirmation that this wasn't just a mistake, wasn't just a moment of weakness she'd cry about when I confronted her, this was it. I installed the camera on day 12, a cheap wireless model, the kind you can buy at any hardware store for $30. I hid it behind a stack of old photo albums, angled toward the spot where I'd found the phone. New York's a one-party consent state. I didn't need her permission to record in my own attic. 3 days later, Mara told me she needed to grab some old fabric from storage. I watched the footage that night in my truck, parked behind the abandoned gas station on Miller Road. She wasn't alone. Vic's face filled the frame as he climbed through the hatch after her. They didn't waste time with small talk. His hands were on her before he'd even straightened up, pulling her close, mouth finding her neck. I missed you, she breathed. All week, I couldn't stop thinking about. I turned off the video. That night, I drove to a bar outside of town, a place where no one knew me, and ordered a whiskey I didn't drink. Sat there in a corner booth, staring at the amber liquid, trying to decide what kind of man I wanted to be. The rage was there. Hot and justified, burning in my chest like indigestion. Part of me wanted to drive straight to Vic's house, drag him out by his perfect beard, and show him what 20 years of manual labor could do to a man's fists. But that's not what Theo needed. Theo needed a father, not a felon. Theo needed stability, not another broken home. So I sat there until the bar closed, working through scenarios in my head. Confrontation, lawyers, courts, custody. Each path branching into 100 possible outcomes, most of them ugly. When I got home at 2 a.m., Mara was asleep. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom watching her peaceful face in the moonlight and felt absolutely nothing. That's when I knew it was really over. The therapy was Nora's idea. You're going to need documentation of your mental state, she said. Shows the court you're taking this seriously, that you're working on yourself. Also shows you're not the type to fly off the handle. I found a counselor in Kingston who specialized in what she called relationship trauma. Dr. Patricia Vance. She had an office overlooking the river, all soft lighting and neutral colors, like the world's most expensive waiting room. Tell me why you're here, Elias. I sat on her leather couch, hands clasped between my knees, and tried to find the words. My wife's been having an affair. 8 months, maybe longer, with her supplier. How did you discover this? Found a phone hidden in our attic. Photos, texts, voicemails. And how do you feel about that? The question almost made me laugh. How do I feel? Like someone ripped up the floor I've been standing on for 12 years and showed me there was nothing underneath but rot. That's understandable? I feel like an idiot. Like every memory I have of our marriage is a lie. Like I've been playing a role in a story she wrote where I'm the supporting character. Dr. Vance nodded, writing something in her notebook. And your son? Theo. My voice broke on his name. He's 10. He doesn't know anything. can't know anything. But you're worried about how this will affect him. He adores her. She's a good mom, in her way. Attentive. Involved. But she's been using him as a cover for her appointments. Telling him to keep secrets from me. That's concerning. I'm going to file for divorce. I want primary custody. Dr. Vance set down her pen. Elias, I need to ask you something important. What do you want out of this? Beyond the custody, beyond the divorce. What does resolution look like for you? I stared out the window at the river. A barge was moving slowly downstream, loaded with gravel. I want my son to know the truth. Not now, not in detail. But someday, I want him to understand that I tried, that I built something real, even if she didn't. And I want, yes? I want her to feel it, what she did to us. I want her to understand what she destroyed. That sounds like revenge. Maybe it is. Is that wrong? Dr. Vance considered for a moment. Wanting accountability isn't wrong. Acting on it in destructive ways, that's where it becomes a problem. The question is whether you can pursue justice without becoming someone you don't recognize. I thought about the camera in the attic, the phone in my drawer, the file Nora was building, piece by piece. I can be patient, I said. I've laid floors for 20 years. You learn to measure twice, cut once, and seal forever. Something like that. The confrontation came 3 weeks in, and it wasn't planned. Mara had been distant all day. Short answers, avoided eye contact, locked herself in the bathroom for 20 minutes after dinner. I'd chalked it up to the mounting pressure of what was coming, the weight of secrets she didn't know I shared. Then Theo came to me with a picture. Dad, I drew this at art class. Mrs. Patterson said I should give it to Mom, but I want to show you first. It was a garden. Bright flowers, green grass, a blue sky. In the center stood 3 figures, a tall man, a woman, and a boy between them. But off to the side, partially hidden by a rose bush, was a 4th figure. A man with a dark beard, standing next to what was clearly meant to be a van. Who's that, buddy? Mom's secret Voss. That's what Mrs. Patterson called him when she saw the picture. She asked who he was. What did you tell her? The flower man. Mom's special friend. The one who brings the pretty stems and makes her laugh. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Makes her laugh? Yeah, when he comes to the shop. She laughs different with him. Loud and, I don't know, different. Different how? Theo scrunched his face, thinking, like when you watch a really good movie and there's a funny part. Not the normal laugh. The real one. The real one. My 10-year-old had noticed what I'd missed for months. The real laugh. The one she used to give me, back when we were newlyweds in this creaky old house before life ground us down into routine and obligation. I smoothed the paper flat on my knee. Theo, has Mom ever asked you to keep things secret from me? About the flower man? His face crumpled with guilt. She said it was a surprise for your anniversary. I wasn't supposed to say anything about the visits. How many visits, bud? I don't know. A lot. He comes when you're at work. Sometimes I'm at Scouts and I come home and the van's leaving. Does he stay long? Couple hours, usually. Mom says they're doing inventory. But one time I came home early because practice got canceled, and they were in her office with the door closed. She got really mad when I knocked. Said I should have called first. My throat tightened. What happened after that? She took me for ice cream, said she was sorry for yelling. Asked me not to mention it to you because it would spoil the surprise. Ice cream. A bribe. She'd literally bribed our son to keep her affair secret. I pulled him into a hug, pressing my face into his hair so he wouldn't see my expression. You didn't do anything wrong, buddy. You understand? None of this is your fault. Dad, is Mom okay? She's been acting weird. She's just stressed about the shop. Everything's gonna be fine. The lie tasted like ash in my mouth. I found her in the kitchen afterward, wiping down counters that were already clean. Classic avoidance behavior. Hey, can we talk? She didn't turn around. About what? Theo drew an interesting picture today. Had a secret vase in it. Said Mom's special friend comes by when I'm at work. Her hand stilled on the counter. He said the flower man makes you laugh different. Loud. Like you used to laugh with me. Elias, what are you? The phone, Mara. From the rafters. 8 months of texts. The motel in Poughkeepsie with the nice riverside view. She turned then, face draining of color. You went through my things? Your things? I found that phone hidden in our attic. In our house. Our marriage. Our life. It's not. You don't understand. Don't. My voice was steady, and that surprised me. I'd expected rage, tears, something volcanic. Instead, there was just this cold, clear certainty. I understand perfectly. You've been sleeping with Vic for almost a year, using our son as cover, telling him to keep secrets from his father. What I don't understand is why I didn't see it sooner. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. The masterful liar, suddenly out of words. The supplier mixers I skipped because of work? The late nights at the shop? The new lingerie that was just for you? Elias, please. I was going to tell you. I was looking for the right time. Right time for what? To blow up our family? There's never a right time for that, Mara. She was crying now, tears streaking mascara down her cheeks. It just happened. I didn't plan it. We were working together, and he understood what I was going through. What you were going through. What exactly have you been going through that I didn't know about? I've been here, every day. Working my body to dust to pay for your dream. Covering for you when you needed a break. Raising our son while you were… I couldn't finish the sentence. He made me feel seen, she whispered. Like I wasn't just a mom or a wife or a florist. Like I was still… me. You could have told me that. We could have worked on it. Gone to counseling, taken a vacation, anything. Instead, you hid a phone in our attic and used our kid as a lookout. So what? You're just gonna throw away 12 years? I'm not throwing away anything. You did that. I'm just cleaning up the mess. You don't understand what it was like. She grabbed my arm. Being invisible in my own house. You'd come home exhausted, barely say 2 words, fall asleep on the couch. When's the last time you planned a date? Bought me flowers? Made me feel like I mattered? Flowers. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your entire business is flowers, Mara. I thought you got enough of those. And I was tired because I was working double shifts so you could chase your dream. Remember that? The shop you just had to open? The startup costs that put us in debt for 3 years? That's not fair. None of this is fair. Life isn't fair. But there's a difference between being unhappy and being a liar. You could have come to me, said Elias. I'm miserable. We need to fix this. Instead, you found someone else and made our son your accomplice. I was afraid you wouldn't care. Then you didn't know me at all. She slumped against the counter, mascara streaked, shoulders shaking. Part of me, a very small part, wanted to comfort her. Old habits. 12 years of reaching for her when she cried. I stayed where I was. What are you going to do? I pulled the separation papers from my jacket pocket. Nora had prepared them a week ago, just waiting for the right moment. I've already done it. 30-day notice. You'll be served officially tomorrow, but I wanted you to hear it from me first. She stared at the papers like they were a snake coiled on our kitchen table. Elias, please. We can fix this. Counseling. Whatever you need. I'll never see him again. It's too late for that. Theo. Theo stays with me. You can fight it if you want, but I've got a file that'll make any judge think twice. 8 months of texts, hotel receipts, A wholesale scam where your boyfriend's been overcharging the shop and pocketing the difference, probably to fund your little rendezvous. Her face went white. What are you talking about? The invoices, Mara. Vic's been charging you double for product and marking it as deep cut discounts. $3,000? Easy. Want to guess where that money went? I watched her process this, watched her realize that her lover had been stealing from her, from us, the whole time they'd been tangled up together. I didn't know, she said. I swear I didn't. Save it for the lawyers. I picked up my keys from the counter. I'm going to go pick up Theo from Scouts. When I get back, I'd appreciate it if you were in a separate room. We can figure out sleeping arrangements later. Elias, I loved you. I really did. That's what makes this so unforgivable. I walked out before she could respond. The next month was war by paperwork. Nora had prepared me for it, but nothing really prepares you for the slow grind of dismantling a life you built together. Asset inventories, financial disclosures, custody evaluations with strangers who smiled too much and took too many notes. Mara hired her own attorney, a guy named Fletcher, who wore suspenders and treated every interaction like a negotiation for hostages. His first move was to push for 50-50 custody, which I'd expected. His second was to characterize me as emotionally distant and chronically absent due to work obligations. That's rich, I told Nora, coming from the woman who was sleeping with someone else while I was working overtime to fund her shop. Save the outrage. We'll use it in court. The mandated family therapy was a circus. Dr. Vance moderated while Mara cried and apologized and swore she was a changed woman. I sat in silence, watching her perform, wondering how I'd ever believed a word she said. Elias, do you have anything you'd like to share? Dr. Vance asked. Just that I'm focused on Theo, making sure he gets through this with as little damage as possible. That's admirable. Mara, what about you? I want my family back. She reached for my hand across the couch. I pulled away. That's not on the table. The co-op board became an unexpected ally. Mara's shop was part of a local florist cooperative, a dozen small businesses that shared marketing costs, vendor relationships, and a storefront downtown. I'd met most of the members at various events over the years. Nice people, generally. Small-town types who valued community and gossip in equal measure. What I hadn't known was that Mara had an enabler on the board. Sandra Phelps, a 50-something woman who ran a succulent nursery, had been covering for Mara's market runs for months, providing alibis, looking the other way when the schedules didn't match. I found out from Nora, who'd been digging through the co-op's financial records as part of the divorce discovery. Sandra's been signing off on invoices that don't match the delivery logs, Nora said. Either she's in on the wholesale scam or she's incompetent. Either way, it's leverage. I thought about it for a day. Sandra wasn't the villain here. She was just a friend who'd made bad choices. But she'd also helped Mara use our son as cover, even if she didn't know the details. So I sent her a photo, anonymous email routed through a server Nora knew. No message, just the image. Mara and Vic at the greenhouse, his hand on her back, her face tilted up toward his. The timestamp clearly visible. Sandra called Mara that night. I know because I was monitoring Mara's new phone. Court order, supervised access during the custody evaluation. Legal and devastating. Mar, what the hell is this? Someone sent me a photo. You and Vic, at the greenhouse. Sandra, I can explain. Explain what? You told me you were over him. You swore you'd ended it. I did end it. That photo is old. It's time-stamped 3 weeks ago, Mara. 3 weeks. Right when you told me you were at a dental appointment. Silence on the line. I've been covering for you. Lying for you. Putting my reputation on the line because you said you were working on your marriage. And the whole time you were still… Sandra, please. The board needs to know. About the invoices. About all of it. You've been skimming from the co-op accounts to pay for your whatever this is. I can't be part of it anymore. You can't tell them. They'll ruin me. You ruined yourself, Mar. I'm just done helping you hide it. The line went dead. I allowed myself a small, cold smile. 3 days later, I paid Vic a visit. Not at his house. I wasn't that stupid. I tracked his van to a hardware store parking lot, waited until he came out with a bag of fertilizer and a coffee. Vic? He froze when he saw me. Just for a second, but long enough. Elias. Hey man, how's it going? How do you think? He set his bag on the hood of the van, like he needed a barrier between us. Look, whatever Mara told you, she didn't tell me anything. I found the phone. His face went through several expressions: confusion, realization, fear. That was supposed to be destroyed. Guess she got sentimental. Elias, listen, it wasn't what you think. We were just… Don't. I stepped closer. Don't insult me by pretending this was something innocent. I saw the photos. I read the texts. Your petals bloom for me. That's what you wrote. Does that line work on all the married women you go after? His jaw tightened. That's none of your business. My wife is absolutely my business. My son, the one you used as a lookout, is absolutely my business. And the $3,000 you skimmed through fake invoices? That's definitely my business. I don't know what you're talking about. The deep-cut discounts, the inflated prices. You've been ripping her off while you were sleeping with her. Pretty slick operation, honestly. Romance and robbery rolled into one. He was sweating now, despite the October chill. That's a business dispute. Has nothing to do with… It has everything to do with everything. But here's the thing, Vic. I'm not going to hit you. I'm not going to threaten you. I'm just going to tell you what's going to happen. I leaned in close enough to smell his aftershave, the same scent I'd caught on Mara's clothes and dismissed as work residue. The co-op is going to audit your invoices, every single one. And when they find the discrepancies, and they will, they're going to file a complaint with the state licensing board. Your wholesale business is going to be investigated. Your other clients are going to find out what you've been doing. And when they do, I stepped back. You're going to lose everything. Not because I'm vindictive, but because you're a thief and a liar. And eventually that catches up with everyone. Vic's face had gone pale. I can't what? Tell the truth? Watch me. I walked back to my truck without looking back. My hands were shaking, but my voice had been steady. That was something. Theo's therapy sessions were the hardest part. The court had appointed a guardian ad litem to represent his interests, a sharp-eyed woman named Barbara Torres, who took her job seriously. She met with Theo 3 times a week, drawing pictures with him, asking careful questions, documenting everything for the custody evaluation. Your son is remarkably perceptive, she told me after the 2nd week. He knows something's wrong between you and his mother, even if he doesn't understand the details. I've tried to shield him. I know, but children feel these things. He's been having nightmares, worries about loose petals and broken vases. That's her language, flower metaphors. He's also been very clear about who he feels safe with. Every drawing, every story centers on you. Adventures you've taken together, projects you've built. The bottle cap collection you help him organize. He's my world. I can see that. She paused. Elias, I'm going to recommend primary custody to the father. There are concerns about the mother's judgment, using the child as cover for an extramarital affair, involving him in secret keeping, the financial irregularities that suggest poor decision-making overall. I felt something loosen in my chest. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm just reporting what I see. The co-op meeting happened in late March, 8 weeks after I'd first found the phone. Nora had been building toward this, documenting the invoice fraud, connecting the dots between Vic's wholesale discounts and Mara's personal expenses, building a case that wasn't just about infidelity, it was about theft. The board convened at the co-op's downtown storefront. 12 florists gathered around a long wooden table. I wasn't supposed to be there, but Nora had arranged for a sympathetic member to live stream the audio to my phone. Sandra presented the evidence first. Financial records showing thousands of dollars in overcharges funneled through Vic's company. Invoices signed by Mara that didn't match delivery logs. A pattern of deception stretching back almost a year. "This isn't just about money," Sandra said, her voice cracking. "This is about trust. We're a cooperative. We rely on each other. And one of our members has been lying to us, lying to all of us, to cover up an affair with her supplier." A murmur went through the room. I could hear it through my phone speaker. Shock, betrayal, the particular outrage of a small community discovering one of their own wasn't who they thought. "That's a serious accusation," said Harold, who ran the orchid nursery on Route 9. "Do you have proof beyond these invoices?" Sandra hesitated. "I have additional evidence, photos, timestamped." "Show us." I heard the click of Sandra's laptop, the sharp intake of breath from the room. Mara and Vic. The greenhouse. His hand on her back. "That could be innocent," someone said. Probably Donna, Mara's only remaining defender. A friendly gesture. "Look at the timestamp," Sandra replied. "March 15th. Mara told me she was at a dental appointment that day. She asked me to cover her shop hours." Mara tried to defend herself. Blamed Vic for the financial discrepancies. Claimed she'd been manipulated, deceived, taken advantage of. "I was vulnerable," she said. "My marriage was struggling. Vic saw that and he exploited it. I'm a victim here too." Sandra's response was swift. A victim doesn't hide a phone in her attic. A victim doesn't use her child as a lookout. A victim doesn't forge invoices to cover her tracks. Those invoices were Vic's doing. You signed them, Mara. Every single one. Your signature, your approval. I trusted him. You trusted him over your husband, over your son, over us. Sandra's voice hardened. You used this cooperative as cover for your affair. You used our goodwill, our friendship, our trust. And when someone finally caught you, your first instinct was to lie some more. The room erupted, questions flying, accusations, demands for a full audit. The vote was unanimous. Mara was suspended from the cooperative pending a full audit. Her shop would remain open, but without the co-op's support, their shared marketing, their vendor relationships, their downtown presence, she'd be operating alone. I listened to her crying through my phone speaker and felt nothing. The trial came in May. Ulster County Supreme Court, Judge Rebecca Thornton presiding. A small-town courtroom that smelled like old wood and paper dust, like 100 other divorces had played out between these walls. Fletcher put up a fight. Argued that my work absences had contributed to the marriage's deterioration. Painted Vic as a predator who'd taken advantage of a lonely woman. Tried to minimize the financial fraud as clerical errors. But the evidence was overwhelming. Nora had assembled everything. The burner phone texts, the attic footage, the motel receipts, the forged invoices, the testimony from Sandra and other co-op members, the guardian's recommendation for primary custody. Even Vic's ex-wife had provided a statement, detailing how he'd done the same thing to her. Seduced her away from a stable marriage, then moved on when someone more exciting came along. This is a pattern of behavior, our attorney argued. The respondent made deliberate choices to deceive her husband, involve her minor child in secret keeping, and defraud her business partners. These are not the actions of someone capable of providing a stable home environment. Mara took the stand on day 2. Fletcher led her through a rehearsed narrative. The lonely wife, the absent husband, the moment of weakness that spiraled out of control. Did you ever intend to leave your marriage? Fletcher asked. No, never. I love my family. I made a terrible mistake, but I was always committed to making things work. Our attorney stood for cross-examination. Mrs. Kane, you testified that this affair was a mistake and a moment of weakness. Is that accurate? Yes. How long does a moment last exactly? Because according to the phone records, this affair continued for approximately 11 months. That's over 300 days. 300 individual choices to betray your husband and son. It was complicated. Was it complicated when you texted Mr. Reyes asking if your son would be at Scouts so you could meet in the attic? That's out of context. Was it complicated when you bribed your 10-year-old with ice cream to keep your secrets? I never bribed him. Your own testimony from family therapy describes taking Theo for ice cream after he almost caught you with Mr. Reyes. You then asked him not to tell his father. Is that accurate? Silence. Mrs. Kane? Yes, that's accurate. One final question. You've testified that you were unhappy in your marriage, that you felt invisible and neglected. During those 11 months of your affair, did you ever, even once, communicate this unhappiness to your husband directly? She stared at her hands. No. Did you suggest marriage counseling? No. A vacation, a date night, a conversation? No. So rather than address your unhappiness with the person you married, you chose to conduct a secret relationship, involve your child in covering it up, and allow your lover to steal from your business. Is that a fair summary? Fletcher objected, but the damage was done. I watched the judge making notes, watched Mara crumble under the weight of her own choices. Mara's attorney tried for sympathy. My client has acknowledged her mistakes. She's seeking counseling. She's committed to rebuilding trust with her son. Judge Thornton was unmoved. The court finds that the respondent's actions demonstrate a significant lapse in judgment that directly impacted the minor child. Primary custody is awarded to the petitioner. The respondent will have supervised visitation until such time as she can demonstrate consistent, reliable behavior. Mara broke down on the witness stand. Real tears, I thought. Or maybe I was just done trying to tell the difference. The financial claims of dissipation are upheld, Thornton continued. The respondent is ordered to repay the documented marital funds used for extramarital purposes, totaling $4,200. Additionally, the co-op's civil claim for fraudulent invoices will proceed separately. I signed the final papers that afternoon. 12 years of marriage, reduced to a stack of documents and a judge's signature. Theo was waiting at home with the babysitter. I picked him up, held him tight, and promised him ice cream for dinner. Are things going to be different now? He asked. Yeah, buddy, but different can be good. Is Mom okay? I didn't know how to answer that. She's going through some stuff, but she loves you, and you'll still see her. Just different than before. He nodded solemnly, like a little adult. Okay, Dad, I trust you. 3 words. The 3 words Mara had stolen from me. I wasn't going to let anyone steal them from him. The aftermath was quieter than I expected. Mara moved into a small apartment on the other side of town. A 1-bedroom above a dry cleaner, the kind of place people end up when all their other options have collapsed. Her shop limped along without the co-op's support, eventually closing in late summer when she couldn't make rent. I drove past it once after the "going out of business" sign went up. Saw her through the window, packing boxes alone, and kept driving. Vic's wholesale business collapsed under the weight of the fraud investigation. Turns out the invoice scam wasn't limited to Mara's shop. He'd been running the same game with half a dozen clients across the Hudson Valley. The state licensing board revoked his credentials in August. Last I heard, he'd moved to Jersey to live with a cousin, trying to start over in a market where no one knew his name. Good riddance. The co-op audit turned up more irregularities than anyone expected. Vic had been skimming from multiple accounts, using Mara's shop as his primary funnel. The total damages exceeded $15,000. Sandra called me one night, 2 drinks in, apologizing for not seeing it sooner. "I trusted her," she said. "We all did. That's not your fault. I helped her lie to you, covered for her when she was with him. I didn't know, I swear I didn't know, but I should have asked more questions. Sandra, it's done. Move forward." She sniffled. "You're a better man than most, Elias Kane." "I'm just a man who wanted to protect his kid." I threw myself into work, picked up extra jobs, saved aggressively, paid off the last of the mortgage. The Victorian that had groaned under the weight of our broken marriage became something different. A project. A purpose. I fixed the porch steps Mara had always complained about. Repainted the kitchen in colors Theo picked out. Built a tree house in the backyard that became his new favorite spot for reading detective novels. Theo had good days and bad days. Some nights he'd come into my room, unable to sleep, asking questions I didn't have answers for. "Why did Mom do it?" "I don't know, buddy. Sometimes adults make bad choices." "Did she stop loving us?" "She didn't stop loving you, not ever. What happened between her and me? That's separate from how she feels about you." "But she lied. She made me help her lie." "Yeah, she did. And that was wrong. But people are complicated. They can love you and still hurt you. It's not fair, but it's true." He'd climb into bed beside me, and I'd hold him until he fell asleep, wondering how to explain betrayal to a child who still believed in magic phones and treasure maps. 6 months after the divorce, I met someone. Mia Reyes, no relation to Vic, thank God, was a landscaper who specialized in garden restoration. We crossed paths at a hardware store, both reaching for the same bag of mulch, and ended up talking for 2 hours in the parking lot about root rot and drainage systems. "You're easy to talk to," she said, before we exchanged numbers. Most guys would have left after the first 10 minutes of soil pH discussion. "I lay floors for a living. I appreciate someone who cares about foundations." She laughed. It wasn't loud, wasn't performative. Just real. We took it slow. Coffee dates. Trail walks with Theo, who decided within 5 minutes that Mia was pretty cool for a girl. A shared pizza after helping me install a new flower bed. Ironic, given everything, but also somehow right. The first time I told her about Mara, we were sitting on the tailgate of my truck, watching the sunset over the valley. She didn't interrupt, didn't offer advice or platitudes, just listened. "That's a lot," she said when I finished. "Yeah. You seem okay, though, considering." "I'm working on it. Therapy helps. Theo helps. Keeping busy helps." "And what about letting someone new in? Does that help?" I looked at her. Really looked. The way I'd apparently stopped looking at Mara somewhere along the line. She had dirt under her fingernails and sawdust in her hair, and she was the most beautiful thing I'd seen in months. "I think it might," she smiled. "Good answer." "You don't talk about your ex much," Mia observed one evening, while we sat on my porch watching the fireflies. "Not much to say. She made her choices. I made mine. Theo's healthy and happy. That's what matters. Most people carry more bitterness than that." I did, for a while. Then I realized I was letting her take up space in my head that belonged to better things. Mia leaned her head on my shoulder. "I like how you think, Elias Kane." "I like that you like how I think." Theo appeared in the doorway, holding 2 popsicles. "Are you guys going to be gross now? Because I can go back inside." Mia laughed. I laughed. Even the fireflies seemed to pulse a little brighter. The co-op sent me a letter in November. Anonymous, routed through Sandra's shop, but I recognized the handwriting from the board, minutes Nora had pulled during discovery. "Thank you for what you did. We didn't know how deep the rot went until you showed us. The cooperative is stronger now. Sometimes it takes someone willing to pull up the floorboards to find the truth. No signature, no return address, just a small dried flower pressed between the pages. I showed it to Mia that night. She read it twice, then handed it back. That's poetic and a little creepy. Welcome to the Hudson Valley. So what now? You got your revenge? You got your kid? You got a pretty decent girlfriend, if I do say so myself. What's left? I thought about it. About the attic and the phone and the months of cold fury that had driven me forward. About Theo's drawings and the custody hearing, and the moment Judge Thornton said the words, primary custody, and something in my chest finally unclenched. I think I'm done looking backward. Yeah? Yeah. I pulled her closer. I've got floors to lay, a kid to raise, a treehouse that needs a second story, and a landscaper who keeps insisting my drainage is suboptimal. It is suboptimal. You're going to have root rot by spring if you don't. I kissed her to shut her up. It worked for about 30 seconds. Seriously, Elias, the grade on your east side is completely wrong. Marry me. She stopped mid-sentence, stared at me. What? You heard me. We've been dating for 6 months. I've known you for 8, and I've spent enough of my life with the wrong person to recognize the right one. Mia was quiet for a long moment. Then she started laughing. Not the polite laugh, not the nervous laugh, but the real one. The one that made her eyes crinkle and her shoulders shake. You're proposing to me while insulting my drainage advice? Is that a no? It's a, you're ridiculous and I love you, and yes, obviously, you idiot. Theo appeared in the doorway again, this time without popsicles. Did something happen? You guys are being weird. Mia looked at me. I looked at her. Theo, I said, how would you feel about Mia moving in with us? His face lit up like Christmas morning. For real? Like forever? Like forever. Can she teach me how to use the chainsaw? Absolutely not, Mia and I said in unison. He grinned, that infectious smile I'd been worried I'd never see again after everything fell apart. This is the best day ever. He wasn't wrong. Looking back, I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I'd never climbed that ladder. If the squirrel scratches had stayed squirrel scratches, and I'd never found the phone hidden in the rafters, would Mara have eventually confessed? Would the affair have burned itself out? Would we have limped along in quiet misery until Theo was grown, pretending everything was fine? I'll never know. And honestly, I don't want to. Because the life I have now, this house, this kid, this woman who argues with me about soil pH and drainage grades, it's real. It's honest. It's built on a foundation that I inspected myself, board by board, before I trusted it to hold our weight. That's all anyone can ask for, really. A foundation you can trust. People who tell you the truth. The courage to tear up the rotten floors and start over. I'm not the same man who climbed that ladder 3 years ago. I'm stronger, warier, maybe a little harder around the edges. But I'm here. I'm standing. And the floor beneath my feet is solid. That'll do. I ran into Mara once, about a year after the divorce. She was coming out of a coffee shop on Main Street, thinner than I remembered, shadows under her eyes. She saw me and froze, like a deer caught in headlights. Elias. Mara. Silence stretched between us, filled with everything we'd never say. A woman walking past gave us a curious look. Word had spread, of course. Small towns have long memories. How's Theo? She finally asked. Good. Great, actually. Made the honor roll. His bottle cap collection is up to 300. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That's wonderful. I'm glad. How are you? Getting by, she shrugged. Started over. New job, new apartment. It's quiet. Where are you working now? Grocery store out on Route 44. Stocking shelves, mostly. It's not much, but it pays the bills. She hugged her coat tighter around herself. I think about him every day. About what I did to him. To both of you. I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to gloat, to remind her that she'd earned every bit of that quiet. But a bigger part, the part that remembered loving her once upon a time, just felt tired. Take care of yourself, Mara. You too. And Elias? I paused. I know it doesn't mean anything now, but I really am sorry. For all of it. I nodded once, then walked away without looking back. The wedding was small. Our backyard, late spring, 50 guests, and a flower arch that Mia designed herself. Theo was my best man, tie crooked, grin enormous, clutching the rings like they were the most important treasure in the world. The vows were simple. We'd both been through complicated, and neither of us wanted that again. I promise to be honest, Mia said, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I promise to build things that last, I said. Foundations, not facades. Judge Thornton officiated, turns out she did weddings on the side, and pronounced us married with a small smile that said she remembered exactly who we were and why we were here. The reception was burgers and beer, a live band that mostly played covers, and more dancing than I'd done in 20 years. Theo insisted on leading Mia in what he called the robot waltz, which was exactly as awkward as it sounds. At the end of the night, after the guests had gone and Theo had passed out on the couch clutching a slice of cake, Mia and I sat on the porch and watched the stars. Any regrets? She asked. I thought about the attic, the phone, the year of destruction and rebuilding. 1. She looked at me, concerned. I wish I'd met you first. She laughed, soft and warm in the darkness. You met me when you were ready. Yeah? Yeah. Some floors need to be ripped up before you can lay new ones. I couldn't argue with that. 3 years later, Theo's 13 now. Taller than me somehow. Same wide eyes, same treasure-hunting spirit, but with an edge of teenage skepticism that keeps me on my toes. He asked about his mom last week. Real questions, not the surface-level stuff. Did you ever forgive her? We were in the treehouse, second story finished, just like I'd promised. The view stretched across our newly graded backyard, past Mia's garden, out toward the mountains. A hawk circled lazily in the distance. Forgiveness is complicated, I said. I stopped being angry a long time ago. That's not the same as forgiving. What's the difference? Anger takes energy. It's like carrying a heavy bag everywhere you go. Eventually you get tired of it, so you set it down. But setting down the bag doesn't mean you forget what was in it. He chewed on that for a minute. Do you think she's sorry? Really sorry? I think she's sorry it all fell apart. Whether she's sorry for what she did, that's a question for her, not me. He nodded slowly. I remember thinking she was keeping a secret about a surprise bouquet. For your anniversary. I remember that too. I felt so stupid when I found out the truth. Like I should have known. I put my hand on his shoulder. You were 10, bud. It wasn't your job to know. Adults are supposed to protect kids from that kind of thing, not hide behind them. Mom was wrong. Yeah, she was. But you're good now. You and Mia. I looked down at the garden where Mia was wrestling with a new irrigation system, swearing creatively at a stubborn fitting. She caught me watching and flipped me off with a grin. Yeah, I said. We're good. Theo smiled. Then I guess it worked out. Guess it did. He climbed down the ladder first, already yelling something about helping Mia fix the stupid pipe. I stayed for a moment, watching the sun set over the valley, thinking about attics and hidden phones and all the things that break us before they remake us. Then I climbed down and joined my family.